COVID-19 pandemic has positive and negative impacts on different aspects of lifestyle behaviors. Negative lifestyle behaviors are associated with an increased risk of adverse outcomes from COVID-19. While dealing with COVID, we overlooked the fact that people's lifestyles were severely disrupted. Many people have become physically inactive and developed irregular eating patterns, which leads to unhealthier lifestyles and aggravation of lifestyle-related diseases. COVID-19 pandemic has also caused significant changes to homes, working life, and stress. A multi-sectoral approach promoting healthier diets and increasing physical activity can help in slowing down the diabetic epidemic and heart diseases. Beat Diabetes Myths and Facts will impact and help a large number of people to prevent or control metabolic disorders. Today, we have with us experts to share with you advice on leading a healthy life. Let me introduce the panel to you. We have with us Dr. Navneet Agarwal, MD, retired professor and HOD of Medicine, MLB Medical College, Jhansi; Dr. Uttam Chand, MD Medicine, consultant physician, Nandini Nursing Home, Mysuru; and Dr. Arun Kochar, MD, DM, DNB, senior consultant, cardiac sciences, interventional cardiology, Fortis Hospital, Mohali. Thank you all so much, doctors, for joining us today. I would like to start with you, Dr. Agarwal. The SARS-CoV-19 pandemic has badly affected our body in various different ways. One new term we heard during this period is the cytokine storm. What is the cytokine storm? How has it affected people with diabetes?
See, what happens is that when a pathogen or an invader enters into the human body tries to destroy it by either engulfing it with the help of macrophages or by liberating certain enzymes in molecules that are called as cytokines. Now, when these cytokines are liberated in large quantities, then we call it cytokine storm.
Okay.
The cytokine storm results from a sudden increase in circulating levels of different inflammatory cytokines,
Okay.
like interleukin 6, interleukin 1, interferon, and TNF alpha, that is tumor necrosis factor alpha. This increase in cytokines results in influx of various immune cells, such as macrophages and T cells from circulation into the site of infection, with destructive effects on the human tissue. This will result in capillary damage, diffuse alveolar damage, multi-organ failure, and ultimately lung injury is one consequence of the cytokine storm that can progress into acute lung injury or its more severe form, that is ARDS.
So specifically for diabetes, anything, Dr. Agarwal?
You see, it doesn't matter whether the patient is a diabetic or non-diabetic. The cytokine storm will occur if the infection is severe enough in both non-diabetics and diabetics.
Okay, so thanks for clarifying that. The effect is the same. Dr. Uttam Chand, do long-term complications of COVID-19 affect people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes in the same way?
Definitely, whether it is type 1 or type 2 diabetes mellitus, the complications of COVID are going to affect, because it all depends on the timeline of the disease. If the patient, when he gets admitted, his blood sugars are more than 126 milligram per deciliter, then definitely the mortality and risk are very high. Here, there is one entity called as new onset diabetes mellitus. That means to say, patient does not have any recorded history of diabetes mellitus, or he is a pre-diabetes, or he is a predisposed either genetically, or he has got obesity. In this situation, definitely what is. Second thing is, we are using steroids in this disease, depending upon the complication. So if you are using dexamethasone, definitely insulin resistance develops and patient can develop diabetes mellitus.
Dr. Kochar, post-COVID-19 complications occur not only in people with pre-existing heart disease, but also in people with no history of heart disease. What are the signs that a person may have developed a heart problem after COVID-19?
It is true that COVID complications occur more often in patients who have heart disease or hypertension or diabetes. but it has also been seen that heart disease happens in patients who have severe COVID. In fact, without any evidence of previous heart disease, patients have been impacted as far as their hearts are concerned. The symptomatology of the two diseases, COVID-19 and heart disease, are similar. More often than not, patients may be having chest pain, breathing difficulty, palpitation. They are both common in the pulmonary involvement of COVID-19 as well as in heart disease. However, if certain patient has severe chest pain, which was not present initially, he is having low blood pressure, breathing difficulty, then probably he is suffering from heart complication of COVID-19. Two tests are very important. You can do a blood troponin level and ECG. And if all these parameters are on the wrong side, then probably this patient is a heart disease complicated patient of COVID-19 unless proved otherwise.
Dr. Agarwal, whenever we talked about diabetes, we talk about insulin resistance. What is insulin resistance? How does it develop?
Insulin resistance essentially means that there is plenty of insulin available inside the body, yet insulin is unable to do its primary action, that is to push glucose inside the cell. Now, there are two major determinants of insulin resistance. One is a genetic propensity, and the other is acquired propensity. Now, in genetic propensity, all of us are aware that Asians, particularly Southeast Asians, are insulin resistant by genes.
Yes.
And how we know it? Because when we measured the plasma glucose and plasma insulin of Caucasians and Indian people of Indian descent, then we found that for the same plasma glucose, the amount of insulin liberated was almost 1.25 times higher in Indian or South Asian persons. So what is insulin resistance then? Insulin resistance is due to either obesity, which is acquired, or it is due to increased liberation of free fatty acids, which circulate, which enter into the cell and cause the mitochondrial ATP to dysfunction. And therefore, energy cannot be liberated.
Okay, sure. Thanks for explaining that. Dr. Uttam Chand, regular glucose monitoring can help people with diabetes to keep complications of diabetes away. What are the advantages of HbA1c testing over glucose measurement for the diagnosis of diabetes mellitus?
HbA1c is a test which does not require a fasting sample. It is called as, you can receive anytime sample. Low intraday individual variation is there, and it will give an average sugar for the past 3 months. So it also correlates well with the risk factor for developing complication. The normal value of this is 4 to 5.6, and if somebody has between 5.7 to 6.4, we label it as pre-diabetes. Anything above 6.4, we take it as diabetes mellitus. So the whole idea, everybody recommends, whether it is ADA or EASD, they recommend that the glycosylated hemoglobin should be less than 7. You will be shocked to know that reduction of HbA1c by 1% will reduce the stroke by 12%, myocardial infarction by 14%, heart failure by 16%, microvascular complications by 37%, and lower extremity amputation by 43%. So earlier it was very difficult. Now we have got a standard test which is DCCT approved, and it is usually done by immunoassay. High performance liquid chromatography test is being done, and once in 3 months we should do this, and it helps in tracking the complication and reducing the complication.
Absolutely. So on that note, we're going to be taking a short break. So it's important that every 3 months one does the HbA1c test, so that in case somebody is diabetic or pre-diabetic, one can get to know before and can take care of that. So we'll be back right after this break. Welcome back. You're watching Beat Diabetes Myths versus Facts. Dr. Kochhar, I would like to start with you. Many years of scientific studies have shown a close relationship between cardiovascular disease and cholesterol levels. Should one focus on lowering dietary cholesterol or saturated fat? There's a lot of confusion on this.
Well, it all happened that after the Second World War, it was seen that many Americans are dying due to heart attack. And at that time, America was a superpower, and it still is. But at that time, there was a lot of dietary patterns, especially in US, that were implicated for the increased heart attack. And cholesterol was chosen, I would say chosen as the main culprit behind it. So almost for many decades, we believed that cholesterol is the culprit that causes heart attack and strokes. However, in recent years, there are studies which have proven that it's not the dietary cholesterol which is to be implicated, which is to be blamed. It is the saturated fat and it are the trans fats which are the main reasons behind heart attack and strokes. So, taken a cue from that, even American Heart Association in 2015 have lowered the guidelines for dietary cholesterol. Putting it in a brief, I would say that dietary cholesterol is useful for the body needs. What we need to shun is saturated fats and trans fats.
Okay.
Trans fats are mainly found in bakery items, pastries, and cakes. Saturated fats are mainly found in ghee, in red meat, and in ice creams. So such fats are to be avoided. Unsaturated fats such as oils, which are olive oil, canola oil, or sunflower oil, or seeds and nuts, they should be taken in right proportion for a balanced diet, and they are actually helpful in reducing heart attack and stroke.
Dr. Agarwal, is only blood sugar control sufficient for the effective management of diabetes? If not, what other factors should be controlled?
Well, certainly not. Blood sugar is only one aspect of managing diabetes. The second most important is increased blood pressure. Almost 60 to 70% of diabetic patients develop hypertension. And the normal value of blood pressure in a diabetic should be 140 by 80 if there are no complications. But if complications are there, the blood pressure should be lowered to 130 by 80.
Okay.
So hypertension is most important, followed by lipids. Now, by common consensus, the LDL cholesterol, which is the bad, or often called the bad cholesterol, should be less than 100 in a person who does not have heart disease. But if a diabetic has heart disease, then the LDL cholesterol should be lowered to 70.
Okay.
And for that, statins are available. The usual doses are 20 to 30, 40 milligrams.
Okay.
The third aspect is lowering of triglycerides if they are more than 400 milligrams. Up to 150 to 400, they are still elevated. But the guidelines for the lowering of triglycerides are not very clear.
Okay.
But above 400, it has to be lowered.
Okay. Dr. Uttam Chand, if an individual has diabetes, what all approaches can help maintain target glucose levels, insulin or oral medications? What really is the better approach here?
Before starting medicines, we should concentrate on the diet, which is the most important thing. The carbohydrate intake should be reduced. You should have more fiber diet. Hydration should be maintained. And we should implement portion. That means to say, one portion of the plate, if you divide the plate into 3 portions, one portion should contain carbohydrate, one should contain vegetable and fruits, and others should contain fibers. Coming to exercise, minimum of 150 minutes per week exercise is very important. And later, he should reduce the stress. He can go for walk, yoga, or things like that. Then comes the medication. Now it is up to us whether we decide putting the patient on insulin or oral drugs. What happens? Diabetes is a progressive disease. Even before the onset of diabetes, the patient will develop complications. So it is important for the treating health practitioner to know what all complications the patient has developed.
Okay.
And depending on that, he can start with metformin, that is the basic drug. Later, he can go for DPP-4 inhibitors or SGLT2 inhibitors or RA agonists.
Okay.
Then later, he can go for glimepiride and things like that. Now, most of the time, what happens is we try to maintain the HbA1c, which I already explained, should be around 7. We use one drug, we use 2 drugs, and there is no point in using more and more drugs. Once you exhaust the maximum dose of each drug, you should resort to insulin. Because by the time you use 2 or 3 drugs, most of the beta cells would have been depleted.
Okay.
And by the time you diagnose diabetes, more than 50% of the beta cells are already depleted. So there is no point in flogging a tired horse. So you should resort to insulin, and early initiation of insulin is better.
Okay.
And in acute conditions, definitely we go for insulin.
So,
So one thing does not fit for all.
Dr. Kochhar, lockdown has disrupted the routine of many people. You know, people have missed their routine blood tests and other health-related tests as well. Can you please advise patients which tests should people do regularly to keep a check on their heart health?
Well, lockdown has certainly impacted as patients are unable to reach hospitals.
Yes.
Even hospitals are at times not very receptive when the pandemic was very tough. So in these conditions, it's very important to realize that certain tests we can do at home and which can tell us that our heart health is good.
Okay.
Heart rate monitoring is very important, and if somebody has heart rate which has been constant, then obviously the person is doing well as far as heart disease is concerned. Regular blood pressure monitoring can be done at home.
Okay.
Most of the people have devices that can check their saturation levels. Apart from that, a regular exercise pattern, if it is not disrupted, and if the patient is able to do that exercise every day without fail, has been proven to be useful in regular heart disease monitoring.
Okay.
A recent study in European Society of Cardiology has said that if a person who is less than 60 years of age and he can climb 4 flights of stairs within a minute, that means that his heart health is good.
Okay.
So that's a very rough parameter, but somebody who has not been diagnosed with a heart disease and who's not willing to go to the hospital, that one test you can do and that can tell us that your heart health is good.
Okay.
Telemedicine has a very remarkable role in this. So people can resort to telemedicine and can judge if their heart is doing fine or not.
Okay. Thank you all so much, doctors, for joining on this very critical issue. It's important that we manage this disease well. Diabetes is all about managing it well, managing your stress, eating right, a balanced diet like our experts said today, and most importantly, exercising and regular checkups. Thank you all so much for watching.